Hello, welcome to Star Wars Spelt Out. I'm your host, Josh Chapman. Today, our delayed review podcast. Too much going on. Celebration is over, but the holiday is not over. But I fly back to London this afternoon, and I had to get something out before the next Mandalorian episode comes out. So, got on the old phone. Who's around? Who's in London? Who's still here? Catherine's still here. Hey, mate, still holidaying?
Yeah, still holidaying. Went up north, saw Chris and Kev from Scruffy Looking Podcasters, and still, clomping around. I saw the quarry from Andor.
Was it everything that you imagined it would be?
It it was great. I got very teary.
Oh.
There was only minor trespassing.
Worth the trip then.
Just very minor. Yes, it was fantastic. It was great fun. So making the most out of being in London and in the UK still.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll do a proper celebration wrap up when we get back to Australia, and we'll get Andy and we'll get Turbo and whoever else is around, and we'll do a proper wrap up of all the things. But if anybody's listened to the blog pods knows that we had a pretty good time. Everybody had a good time. It took a little while to recover, I think. But, we'll go into that more detail later on. But, I've been in Lisbon and I've been back in London the last couple of days. And it's been a whirlwind, Catherine. I can tell you it's been a goddamn whirlwind.
Yep.
I got engaged. That was a thing that happened.
Oh yeah! Congratulations! Now
Thanks.
To say it in person.
I know. Yeah. Well, we've been together 10 years and got 2 kids and stuff, so it's not like it was completely. Well, it was out of the blue, I think, just because it was assumed it wasn't going to happen. But no, that's nice. I'll get into the story of that later on. But the irony with this late episode of Mandalorian is that we saw this like a week and a half. We saw this like a week before everybody, and I was this close because when we got the tickets. Because basically what happened at Celebration, if you'd been in the Lucasfilm panel, you got a special wristband. Is that right? To see Mandalorian. Yeah. It was like 5 or 6 days early, wasn't it?
Yeah, because it's like the first night, so that was, the Friday night. So, yeah, well early. And, we didn't obviously get into the Lucasfilm panel, but our lovely friends, Kimberly Sterling and Andrew...
they kind of went, oh yeah, we've had a big couple of days. We don't want to stay back late. We've got things to do, so we're just going to do that instead. And do you want the wristbands? So they kind of wrenched them off their arms, and Kim's got the world's smallest arms anyway, and she still was like, Andrew just with his big muscles just kind of broke his off. But and so we walked up to the we're at the Galaxy stage with this sort of dangling. Yeah. They're well, wristband is a wristband. I don't think it really matters.
No, I don't think they really care as long as the numbers are okay.
Yeah, as long as there's not like the Jimmy Dices of the world or the Matt Moles of the world just scamming their way into the screening and stuff. So yeah, we got to see it, like a week early, and I kind of went. I think even that evening I was like, maybe I should record a reaction and not put it out, but sit on it just so it's ready to go, knowing that we're going to have all these days of celebration. We're going to go away to Lisbon. I'm probably not going to have time to do it. And I just was like, It just means it's a night I don't have to do more podcasting. It's fine. That's enough.
Well, that night we sort of ended up, with doing a few things that night and not getting back till late-ish.
Yeah, I mean, that was the only night that we didn't have a big night out. We went, we took care of a couple of housekeeping things and then went out to dinner. And then by the time we finished dinner, it was 9:30, 10, and everybody was I think it had sort of hit the jet lag and the big night before it hit, and everybody went, you know what, we're just going to take it a little bit easy and then get ready for the next couple of days is what we did. But, I mean, the crazy thing about this episode was that nobody spoiled it. I didn't see, I run a pretty tight Twitter ship, but even through the Star Wars Spelt Out account, I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I saw nothing, and on... a general sort of podcast that just covers other shows, I said, look, we saw it, so be careful out there. That's as much as what I said. And as far as I've heard, no one got spoiled. I think the most I sort of saw out there was, I saw the episode, it was good.
Yeah, I think I was like, I saw it and I said it was good. And I think I might have actually said, oh, it's the best one of the series. And Steele was like, was that the series or the season? I'm like, oh, the season, my bad, And he's like, yeah, that makes more sense. I'm like, yeah, that makes more sense. He was like, hey, Luke Skywalker came back in an episode. You're saying it's better than that? Excuse me.
Well, you've said there's stuff better than Luke Skywalker coming out. So.
Yeah, that's right. I've said that. It's called Andor, everybody. Look it up. You might have heard of it, Catherine. So, no, it was cool that we got to see it early. And I think it's it sets a good precedent for nothing else. If it had come out 5 days and people had spoiled the shit out of it, they would have been like, you know what? No more early stuff for you guys.
Yeah.
Because we saw Obi-Wan early, but it was literally like by the time it finished, it started on Disney Plus, so there was really no way to spoil it. And this was
you're right. It was like an hour or two early, so
So by the time we walked out of the convention center, by the time we walked out at Anaheim, it was like 2 minutes before. We walked back home and watched it again at Disney Plus when we got home. So I'm just trying to remember what happened in this damn episode. So it's the spy. Is it the spies? It's the spies plural, isn't it? Which has caused a little bit of
the spies plural. A lot of debate online. Some people obviously have had days to think about who were the spies, and they'd been bursting at the seams because we start off with Kane, walking the streets of Coruscant in a very Blade Runner-esque
shady
scene,
area,
going to talk to the hologram of Moff Gideon. It's being projected through the probe droid. Not at all suspicious looking.
I kind of feel like that she should have just done this indoors, like behind closed doors somewhere. Like she's still like out in public, like enough for a droid to like fly down, which are already conspicuous, or very, very conspicuous anyway, very Imperial tech. Like I feel like if you lived in Coruscant and you're just walking down the street and you saw an Imperial probe droid, even from a distance, you'd be like, that's a bit weird. And they do that little, they make those same little noises and things as well. But yes, Moff Gideon is back. The worst kept secret in Star Wars.
So she's like one of the titular spies. Everyone sort of agrees on that, but no one can agree on who the plural of the spies are. But Moff Gideon being back then leads us into the Imperial Shadow Council.
We're getting pretty EU here, aren't we? All those people with their billboards and they're protesting about cancelling the expanded universe, but they're mining pretty deep in it now, aren't they? Like there was Captain Palion, obviously, from the Timothy Zahn novels.
Yeah, the original Timothy Zahn, Heir of the Empire. And they literally said Heir of the Empire
I think,
in the episode.
I literally think
that was in Ahsoka.
I literally think that Filoni movie will be called Heir of the Empire. Like I'm almost 99% sure that's what they'll call it, because they'll just be like, we just get all of those people on side in one foul sweep.
And let's face it, it's a good title.
Yeah, it's a great title.
It's a good title.
It's a great title. So yeah, he's basically there, and he's back. He's back. He's bad. He's ready to roll. He's got all the other dudes, and they're all sort of squabbling over sort of petty things. And they have Hux's dad turns up, played by John Gleason's brother, I think it is.
Yeah, it is. And we found that out a while later. But yeah, it was played by his brother, which is a very cool bit of casting. I'm very happy about that.
Suitably snarky looking redhead like his brother.
But yeah, that was a fantastic little bit there, to not only see Hux Senior was good, having played by a Gleason was even better. But yeah, that Shadow Council, I want to find out everything about it.
Yeah, there were some quite interesting cats on there, wasn't there? There was like a couple of different people, a couple of ladies on there. They all seem to be... It's basically implied that they're well more organised than people are giving them credit for. And that was they kind of want people to think that they're just a bunch of warlords squabbling out in the Outer Rim. And it seems like one of them too might be, but they're basically well more coordinated. And it's obviously the lead into the First Order, that they're cooking something in the Outer Rim.
yeah, they want the new Republic out of the Outer Rim. They want chaos in there, sowing chaos. That's. I think a few weeks back we were talking about why they would getting the pirates to stir trouble in the Outer Rim, and we're sort of seeing that fruition now. This is what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and like literally the Republic's like, oh, we can't do it. So they're just like, oh, we'll stuff the New Republic. What else you got?
Yeah.
And in their minds, it's them. Yeah, so that was very cool. I mean, I like the idea that like Hux's dad. I mean, I don't know the timelines, but I like to think like just off the call, like little Hux is just like smashing windows in the background or throwing his toys or being like a little turd, basically, while his dad's on a Zoom call.
Or it's that classic, was that BBC video footage of the dad talking about North Korea and
and the kid just swallowed it.
and then a little baby just wheeling in the background.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's that sweet, but I haven't read those books. Doesn't he like murder his parents or something, Hux, in the end? Isn't there some like...
I didn't read those ones, but...
I'd have to check. It's a Star Wars Explained video, I'm sure, somewhere where they go into all that.
Yeah.
Also, actually, quick shout out to Star Wars Explained to Molly and Alex, because Alex plugged in the beanies on his video. So I won't go into Celebration, but they did get their beanies and had to catch up with those guys. So that was very nice. Always good to get shouted out. We'll go into more detail and all that in the Celebration, in the recaps. Also, sorry, if anybody's listening to this and they think my audio is a bit weird, I'm off my laptop here. I don't have my big mic. So, but I think you just have to deal. But if you want content, this is what you've got to deal with. That's the way it goes. So yeah, and then we basically cut back to Navarro and the Mandos show up. Like the big ships come in, and they've taken the time to paint the bottom of the ship like it's Red Dwarf. That's what I always think of. Like at the start of the old classic Red Dwarf, and it's got the little man painting the signage on the side of the ship. And they've just had the time to put the big branding on the bottom of it. I guess that wouldn't be that hard with a jetpack, would it?
Cool.
You could just jetpack up, and someone could just draw it out. I mean, it's only got to be a basic shape. It doesn't have to be too accurate.
Yeah. A droid's doing that.
Oh, yeah, of course.
It looked cool, and the reaction in the room was, oh yeah, like being in the room to watch that episode. It was great. Like everything was getting really good reactions. People were loving the Shadow Empire, and yeah, when that ship flew in, everyone was like, oh, that's cool.
It would have been interesting if it had been last week's episode, which is obviously very, very silly and was very divisive. And I haven't gone back and rewatched it, but I know we did the review for it kind of at the pub while everybody had a few beers, and I'd sort of stuck the microphone in people's faces. So I'm not sure if we got a super accurate review on there, but it was pretty something. What?
That was not an episode to watch jet lagged on no sleep.
Yeah, that was here. I was like, I think I saw Jack Black and Lizzo, but I must have been imagining things, and surely that's not what I really saw.
Yeah.
But this was a lot more focused. There was a little bit of like, geez, after the last week, I wonder what we're going to get this week. But we'll round up when we round up. But so the Mandos turn up, and they'll sort of set up camp, and then so the covert was there first. So Din and the armor and all those sort of the more extreme dudes are there, and then Bo-Katan's bringing back Axe Woves and all those dudes in the rest of the fleet. And they all kind of land, and they're having a bit of a face off, checking each other out, sizing each other up, a bit like the Beat It video. They're all kind of like I want to get Paz Vizsla and Axe Woves to tie a ribbon around their hand, with a knife in their hand, and they do and everyone's circling around
the
them.
dance fight.
Yeah, they do the
dance fight.
They could have just done that. And then Van Halen's in the background, sort of like shredding and stuff. That would have been cool.
See, I'd be more West Side Stories, the Sharks and the Jets.
Oh, there's a bit of that too.
Yep.
Do you reckon there's like a love story in there somewhere where it's like, the Mandalorian lady and the Death Watch
don't
dude.
Don't tempt me with a good time. Like, come on.
One can't take their helmet off, all that sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah, now you're talking my language.
Someone who's just been living in Jane Austen world left Star Wars world and just moved into Jane Austen world with a little side dish of back to Andor.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm all about it. All about the Austin.
Nice. So, yeah, they kind of have a bit of a face-off and seem to get along reasonably quickly. Bo-Katan kind of rails them up and is like, hey, it's all nice to be here and we can kind of stretch our legs here a little bit, but ultimately we're going to go back to Mandalore.
Yeah.
And
so, yeah, I want volunteers. And
everyone
first,
kind of
no
looks at each
one's
other.
talking.
Which is weird. I kind of thought everybody would be chomping it to get there, but no. Anyway.
Yeah, good old Dean. You have my sword. You have my axe.
They all kind of fell into line after that.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you spoke of stretching their legs. Let's get to the biggest reaction in the room. So Dean goes along to see Grief Karga, and Grief Karga's like, I've got something for you.
I've completely forgot about this. Yeah. Yeah.
And in walks a modified IG-11 with a Babu Frick, was it an Azuran?
I think it actually is Babu Frick. I could have swore I heard Doug Chang. Like I was walking past a panel, maybe even the live stage, and they were broadcasting some of the panels, and it was the Doug Chang one. He was talking. It was like Design the Mandalorian, and he was literally like Babu. Like he was saying it was Babu Frick. I might be wrong, but that was.
Yeah. They're just Babu Freaks. No one can fully remember the name. It's like,
Greedos.
We say a bunch of Greedos.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And he'd basically they basically stripped IG-11 down to just like just like its sort of chassis, I suppose.
Yeah. So is that Krang? Is that another?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that
reference.
But that's more, I guess. I mean, there's a few things of things being driven around by robots, and there was there was that sort of the face-off where he's like bad baby, and somebody was implying he was like swearing under his breath. There's some clip where apparently you can hear him sort of swear under his breath at him as he walks away.
Oh, and once you hear it, you can't not hear it. It is very clear once you hear it.
Really? Okay.
It is hilarious. Yeah.
I kind of like the idea of
that. But yeah, so Grogu gets a robot to drive around, but very importantly, has a yes/no button.
I was just thinking of the Bluey episode, Dance Mode. Have you seen the Bluey episode, Dance Mode, where Bluey talks Bingo into buying the little yes and no thing? And then at the end, they're just like, is that what you really wanted? She's like, no. She sort of got cornered into spending her money on it. And that was that's where my brain went. I'm sure Eric Struthers probably went the same way.
But yeah, it's like I remember buying presents for nephews and nieces. And at one point, my brother said, yeah, just get them anything. Just make sure it doesn't have batteries so it doesn't make sound.
Yeah.
And definitely there was that kind of vibes.
There was that, as a parent, Catherine, there was a lot of like, oh my God, where's the off button on this thing? So it was quite funny. He kind of gets in and he can kind of walk around. So it does, there's always that issue of like Grogu being luggage, and he's, as opposed to being luggage this season, he's kind of just taken a back seat mostly.
Yeah.
Been in the background. And I guess he's sort of been floating around, but this does make him more in the middle of stuff. Like literally when we get to what happens at the end, he's in there, and it probably couldn't have worked had he been in the capsule or Din holding him. Like it means that he's got a little bit of protection and he's got a little bit more grit around him, and also gets around. We don't have to have him talk as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So when he goes in there, Din's looking at Grief Karga going, are you sure this is a good idea?
Yeah, like you've
almost immediately, I've made a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Yes. No.
So
it reminded me of these YouTube videos of this cat they've got all these buttons, and they've taught the cat how to use the buttons to communicate.
Oh, wow.
So there's want, food, mad, so yeah. It's wonderful.
When animals can talk, when animals and babies can talk. Was it Homer's brother who invents the baby interpreter or whatever it is?
Yeah.
I've just soiled myself. How embarrassing. So we do. It kind of smartly solves a couple of problems there. I don't know why. They probably could have done that 4 or 5 episodes ago, but it was a nice little moment. And there's a bit of ruckus out in the streets with that. And then they basically go to Mandalore. So they get a crew, they get down there, they have sort of like a forward scouting mission, and the armourer says, I'll go along as well with a couple of other, randoms, and there's a bit of like sort of dick swinging between Axe Woves and Paz Vizsla again, fighting over a chess game or something.
Yeah.
Again, she just do the beat it dance. That's...
They find some survivors who's like floating or speeding along the planet's surface on like a pirate ship. That
felt very like a Terry Gilliam film. That like a Time Bandits, like was it the Accountants of the Coast, or Crimson, whatever. Just that the design and the vibe of that was very Terry Gilliam, and I was like, I'm all for that because I love Terry Gilliam. I'm just like, I'm all about that kind of design and stuff. So that was quite cool, and it also they just gone, oh yeah, we'll just show you where the thing is. So good, we don't have to waste the time looking for the forge or whatever it was that they've come to look for. And also, which I quite appreciated as well, is that they run into a giant monster, but actually kind of just got knocked about a bit and didn't have to kill it or fight it. Yeah. It was just sort of like there. And there was some sort of revelation about Bo-Katan as well, wasn't it? That she...
during the Night of 1,000 Tears, she'd surrendered to Moff Gideon to try to save as many Mandalorians as she could, and in that surrender she handed him the black saber, which he took, and then did not stop the
purge,
stop the bombardment.
Because I couldn't kind of figure out if they were mad at her for not surrendering. I kind of weird. Like some people were kind of mad at her because she just dug in and got everybody killed, and then. It was kind of weird, and then I think she was ashamed that she did surrender. So she's a bit in a no-win situation. Yeah. So I think she's like, hey, look, this is what actually happened. I actually tried to save everybody, and some of you are mad because it's like, no surrender. And then some of you are mad because, hey, man, you're arrogant space. You just got to get killed. So that seemed to be a bit of growth for her.
In that moment, it was a bit of acknowledgement of, okay, there was, you were in a no-win situation. You tried.
Yeah, and you
tried
over.
Something. Let's join together. And it was at this point or around here that the armourer left with some injured or sick people to go back to the big ship orbiting. Yeah. And this is where fan theories erupted.
Yeah, that she's like, all right, I'm out of here. Because, we talked... So what basically happens is that they get down to the forge and they run into the Imperials are there, and they've basically set up shop. They haven't abandoned Mandalore. They've literally... which makes sense because they're like, we want it for its resources. So as soon as we clear the planet, we're basically going to set up shop here. And I don't know if it's just Moff Gideon going solo. It seems like he's running the whole operation. And he's just put a whole Imperial installment in there and basically started mining the Beskar for himself and got a bunch of Beskar soldiers. So that's where the Beskar was when he got busted out of jail last time. It was, as far as we know, that implies that makes more sense. So the theory is that basically, the armourer is in cahoots because who's going to fashion the Beskar? He can't just do it himself. You need to have the know-how. And I think she's thirsty for Beskar, so it could have been hay. Because they did, there was a thing. It literally was a thing where they got the covert and killed everybody in the first season, and she was the only one left. So either it was always like, she just hid or she got away, but it could have been that he literally caught her and he's like, all right, well, I'll let you go, but you got to work for me.
And there's theories about her having the horns on her helmet, and whether she's linked to Darth Maul.
Well, didn't he have someone, Moff Gideon have someone his as well? Because that was the ultimate action figure upgrade of like, he flies down and he's wearing, I was just like, oh my God, this is just like Star Wars Celebration with all these bloody Mandalorian cosplayers running around. I've just had 4 days of Star Wars Mandalorian cosplayers and now I'm just watching it on television.
It's going to go off next Celebration.
Oh my God, there'll be so much shiny black Beskar going on. Everyone's going to be chromed out.
So they were infiltrating the base that they unexpectedly found and encountering these souped up Imperials.
So I don't know they're not droids, obviously, because I watched again the other night and listened on my headphones. I could hear the like when they get shot and stuff. So it's not like they were dark troopers in suits or anything. They're dudes in suits. I mean, I heard theories that there were clones, and that's what he's been messing around with the clones for. I heard theories that there were clones of Din Djarin because they took his blood, but I'm like, that was like 3 weeks ago. Like, how does that work? So whether that means anything or they're just dudes that he's got and he's put them in suits, which seems like the easiest option. But again, he does like total compliance because he was implying that, because he did go like, I've got the best of the Mandalorians, I've got the best of the Jedi, and now I've got the best of the cloning. So it does imply that whatever he's got, he's been mucking around with some. I mean, there might all be a bunch of Snokes under there. Who knows? I feel like there'll be some revelation next week.
Yeah, there'll be something about it, but I think the most straightforward explanation is that there's just some dudes guys in suits, taking away the droid element, which I think he was implying that there's no droids in there anymore in the next evolution. And I don't know if he's far enough down that cloning route to be able to clone a person.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of implication that they talk about what Project Necromancer, which is obviously related to Palpatine. But it seems like he's taking and flying, doing his own solo shit on the side, sort of outside the jurisdiction of whoever's organising this thing. Like, he's kind of flying solo. But they, so the Mandos, they get trapped. We have a good woozy battle and stuff that goes on, and again, it was that thing where like Grogu's in the IG unit now, so he can kind of run around a little bit and be more involved. And then Paz Vizsla, who I never really liked. I felt bad for the guy. He kind of did the last stand and held them off.
Boromir.
He was Boromiring it up.
Well, Din Djarin, he was on the other side. And so there was this big separation between a couple of Mandalorian and the main bulk. The main bulk were behind like a blast door, and a couple of them, it was Din Djarin and Paz, I think, or at least just Din Djarin. He was taken. He was very noticeably taken alive.
And that's sort of where we left it, wasn't it? Really, that he got captured. I mean, I have a feeling it's like he will pull his helmet off him. Like Moff Gideon will be like and then he'll pull the helmet off those soldiers, and it'll be Pedro Pascal's through that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they're warming up to that kind of, like, if it is a clone, that they've done something along those lines. But I could be wrong. But I feel like it's leading up to something like that. That mask's coming off again. I mean, we haven't seen his face this season. Pedro gets one face shot in per season. So. Yeah, and, Paz holds them off until he can't, and then we get some nice little sequel tie-ins with the Praetorian Guards turning up, which was very cool.
And it took Praetorian Guards to take Paz down. So Paz has gone from not being well liked in the Star Wars community to, Paz, no!
Nothing like a heroic stand to get you back in favour. And that's kind of where
saving everyone. Yeah.
That's kind of where we left it. So it was like you said, a great episode to watch in the room that really got back on track. I feel like you could have, cut 3 episodes out of this maybe, or reduced it and worked the plot differently, but whatever. We'll do a full recap of the season when we do that. But I mean, as far as getting to see it early, getting to watch that in the room got a really great reaction. I mean, if you can't get a good reaction at Star Wars Celebration for something like that, where can you get it?
But yeah, congratulations, Star Wars fans. It was kept pretty well under wraps, I think. So well done, everyone.
Absolutely. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there because I've got to pack up my bags and I've got to get ready to get on a plane and fly back. Now, I'm going. I fly back in a few hours and I arrive at midnight on Tuesday, Australian time, and I'm working Wednesday. And then I got an invite to the finale screening at Hoyt's that Disney are putting on in Melbourne. And Katie Sackhoff was supposed to be there, but she's not making it anymore. But I think it'll be like the Obi-Wan one. Might get a couple of free toys, free dollies. That'd be nice. So I'm going to take my phone and record a reaction probably there because I think Eli, who I did Book of Boba Fett with, who came to the Obi-Wan finale as well, is coming along. So if he's there, I'll do a reaction with him, and I might even bank that, and then we might catch up. Well, you won't be back by then. Maybe I'll catch up with Matt Mole or somebody locally, and we'll do a finale wrap-up. But then what we'll do is when everybody's back, we'll get Dale and you and Matt, and we'll do a series recap like we did for Andor, and we'll kind of go through the whole thing. But
So it drops here in the UK Wednesday morning, so I think it's 8 a.m. or something. I'll get up, watch that, and have my day. So if you need, let me know.
If the people demand it, which they usually do. But thank you for doing this. I thought I'd better get something out before I go. We've got a lot more content to go. We've got to do a Mando wrap up. We've got to do a celebration wrap up. Where are you off to today, Catherine? Jane Austen Land, another quarry?
No more quarries, although I did hear reports that season 2 was filming in another quarry. That one was in Dorset, so...
You got the map out?
Quite... there was a bit of that. But a little bit more quiet today. I thought Imperial War Museum, or Imperial War Rooms, so Churchill's War Rooms, and then you swing around, have a look at how...
Soak it up.
From there. Yep.
Lovely.
Loving it.
Great.
Loving it. It could be warmer.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Thank you very much for the beanie.
No worries. They're all been accounted for. They're all gone now. So that's that. So we'll have to wait for 2025. All right. Well, thanks everybody. We'll catch you later on. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Thank you, Josh. And good night, my little Mandos.
Bye.
Bye.